we can get into some earnings or price action related to these earnings. So let's share. Nothing much, Snowflake. I have been taking an extended break after the coaching session today, and now I'm ready for looking at some earnings plays. So I think OXY is one that we have to keep on our radar. So I'll get this out. Let's take a look at OXY and what is the other one? RIVN, I think. I would actually have to check the title of my own stream to make sure. RIVN and OXY. So let me just take a look at a higher time frame for a second, and we'll get into the after hours. But before anything, right? Before I'm going to look at anything, I want to be where I would like to be a buyer. That's kind of the first step. So I'm going to talk about some levels for OXY and as well for RIVN, which I could have done that 2 seconds ago, but nonetheless, bear with me. I'm just going to add in some high time frame levels of interest, at least up to my system, which I'm teaching in the coaching section. Welcome, TK, as always. So let me just take a look at RIVN on lower time frames here. Let's go to the 15 minutes and make sure that we're on extended hours. Let's see. Are we on extended hours? Not really. So I'll fix that first. Let me go to just one chart and go to extended hours. All right. Okay, that's OXY already, and then let's put the second one in there as well. RIVN, also on extended hours. Yeah, and I have my levels on my chart. So none of these companies I actually have a position in. So maybe because I was going to do this earnings stream, maybe over the next couple of days or weeks I will get something, but I'm not really very accustomed to these particular tickers. So I'm just going to mark out some levels that I think are important. Also after hours here, maybe 67. What is that top there? 67, 67. So let's go to the 5 minute and let's see how far above us that is. And also let's see on the lower time frames here where we're currently facing resistance. So looks like we're rejecting from like particularly this level here, at least on the lower time frame, 65.45. That seems to be, at least on the lower time frames, the thing to get above for OXY, and we can do the same thing for RIVN. So we'd be looking at that low there turning into resistance, and potentially after hours if we can get above that, and then looking for a retest. So not suggesting a breakout trade here. I would at the very least like to see a 5 minute to close above that, and then we can further assess. So that's it for OXY. I'm going to keep 65.45 on my radar. And to the downside, I was actually noticing that this thing has been making lower lows on the bigger picture. So actually, no, it's not OXY, it's RIVN. So let me take that back, and let me just go to this 15-minute time frame. And at the very least, now let's monitor 65.45 actually on a 5-minute time frame. Then we can go to RIVN as well. Let's go to the 4 hour. Let's see what kind of price action we had today. So today we opened and we just came down. So looks like there's a lot of room to basically fall back to. I'm just going to mark off some levels, which sometimes during after hours, you see a lot of volatility, and that taps into one of these like higher time frames areas of interest. So I'm going to just mark off 975 there. I don't know, right? Maybe we don't make it there immediately, but if we do drop maybe another one of these candles on top of it, then I might be interested for a scalp or for tomorrow as well. So something like that from the green box. So I'm going to keep that on my radar, and then I'll add on some more charts, because there's actually some things that are not in the title, but that are also having their earnings right now, in which I do personally have a position in, such as Fortuna Silver Mine. So I want to make sure that we put that as our third chart. Also a very warm welcome, of course, to everybody joining in. Let me just get these charts organized. OXY on the left, monitoring if we can get above 65.45. RIVN in the middle, seeing if we can get a move down lower to maybe 9.75. So to sweep all the stop losses below 10, and then maybe a bullish reversal from there, targeting 10.70. Maybe later on in the week, that's something that, like, as I'm doing these earnings, I'm going to keep these levels on my radar and also trade them. So on the right, I want to have FSM on there as well, Fortuna Silver Mines. I think Swinging Bull says that he is watching on YouTube. That is amazing. And it also confirms that everything is working on YouTube. So we have left chart, middle chart, and then the chart on the right. As I said, and this is something that we've been covering in the premium section many times, especially with the lifetimers. This is actually something that I've been bullish on. I've actually been making Twitter posts on that as well. But this is a very, very interesting earnings day, at least for me, for FSM. I've zoomed out of that chart in the bigger picture, right? This is really bullish to me because we've been making higher highs here. So while there is a lot of room to potentially come down to make a higher low here, I also think and bear in mind that there's a good possibility that we just keep running from here. So maybe for anybody watching on YouTube as well, like, I am personally in that, and I was looking at the 550s as a potential first target. So let me go to the 5-minute time frame and see how that's unfolding here after hours as well. So let me make sure that I have the extended trading hours on there as well. 494 is an important level from a couple of days before. So it would be very, very nice to see that tomorrow we could get above $5. And like I said, it's not in the title of the stream, but FSM is something that is highly on my radar, and that could also see a catalyst here tonight. Maybe we're going to be really pushing it, trying 4 charts on this screen, but nonetheless, I also wanted to take a look at TOST, and let's just basically focus a little bit on where the volume is at, right? So let's just focus at what is moving. So RIVN seems to be moving quite aggressively to the upside. This is something I wouldn't suggest trying to breakout trade that at some point it might come down and make a higher low here, and then we can look, right? So that green box is one option. Now there's going to be an option that we come down here somewhere and find a higher low and then maybe go up. So I'm not trying to predict anything here, but I'm just looking at this price action. I'm looking to the left where we're making these lower highs. And I'm thinking that one of these lower highs that would potentially be, I'm going to draw that out a little bit more cleanly, of course, but something like this, right? 1042. Let's see if the price would like to come back to that and then hold that. So let's monitor just that level. OXY seems to be very lackluster, at least in terms of after our price action so far. So maybe I'll throw that one out to have a look at TOST as well with everybody. And so RIVN by no means is this something to immediately get into. So if you're trying to break out trade that, you immediately are coming down. So let's see at the very least how this 5-minute candlestick closes, like how these candlesticks close. That's very important. And before any candlestick is closed, you really don't know yet if that is going to end up being a big wick or if we maybe run all the way back there in the next minute. So that's all possible. It's also possible, and that's why I have this green box on the chart. What often happens is a very big move to one side, and then actually if that doesn't hold a big sell-off, then you want to be aware of where to look. So I'll just reiterate that for me, at least personally, 975 is a level, and then 962 below that as well. So let's keep that on our radar. FSM also doesn't really seem to be moving all that much, so I'm just going to switch it for TOST. Oh my God, this should have been on my third chart straight away. Let's see. I remember playing this last year as well in the Discord. We're actually very, very close to that, to here. I very much remember playing that. From what I remember, it's also a dividend-paying stock. Could be wrong though. Let's see on the 4-hour time frame. This is a very impressive move. I don't want to chase anything, but I want to look just as what I'm doing here on the RIVN chart, like on this 5-minute time frame. I'm kind of trying to look at these lower highs to see where the chart might come back to then find support. So TOST, this is very bullish. I know a lot of people who are incredibly proficient at trading trend lines. My good friend Todd in the Discord here being one of them. I like to look at these horizontal levels, but by all means, this is a very beautiful, uh, huge move up and what have you, your bull flag pattern, and it's a beautiful breakout. Now, this is territory where people are going to be taking profit that are in from lower. So I don't want to be the first to breakout trade anything here, but I very much want to be aware of where this is going to open tomorrow to look for a retest, maybe at the very least at 25.62. So 25.62 for TOST is that 4-hour high, right? And it could come down lower. So I'm not suggesting putting just a blind order there. I want to be aware of how price is going to react from that level. So let's go to the 15-minute and let's see what we're working with here. 10% to the upside, so they must have done exceptionally well. RIVN coming right back down. So this is, again, I'm not trying to predict anything, but it looks like this is probably going to want to go to the green box because this is in a bigger picture downtrend. And let's at the very least have a look here. So 975. And like, again, no orders here, but if I were to have a scalp, this is where I would do it from. See that middle level from that box? There's something there happening on that candlestick, right? And by all means, it could come down lower. So this is by no means something that you're gambling your life savings with, right? Let's be clear about this. This is all very, very risky business after hours, very thin liquidity. But at the very least, you want to be able to know where you want to be able to look. So right, like that example on that green box, that's something that if you want to be aware of or where to look, like you're not being shocked by a big candlestick, and you want to be able to learn where to look, by all means, come join the coaching program in Penny Boys. There we go in depth as to why that was an important green box. I want to have OXY. I want to give a little bit more space here, you guys, and ladies as well, of course, to RIVN and TOST, because they are showing me the most interesting price action. And OXY, like I said, that 65.45 level, that's what we need to get above with at the very least a 5-minute candle close before thinking about retesting that level and going higher, right? So this is very, very, you have to be very quick on your fingers if you want to even attempt this, and you want to be very moderate with your size and have a tight stop loss. But like, yeah, knowing where to look does help out. So 975, and then it didn't quite make the lower end of that box. Now let's go back a little bit. Why this box, right? Little 4-hour fair value gap. That's, if for anybody who would also rewatch this recording in the beginning of this stream, I've actually marked that out here on the stream. So that's something RIVN was not ever really aware of this chart. So that's something that you can quickly, before going any after hours here, you want to have a broader perspective of up or down trend and levels of interest. So TOST, I'm also going to mark off some more levels here. So 25.6 is one, but I'm also looking at, let's see, these lower highs here, right? That's really, there's a lot of value in just that, looking at these lower highs that just got broken. And maybe we fall back to that for a bullish retest. So I want to have a look for TOST at 24.73. And this RIVN thing, right? People that are quick on their fingers, as I say, you can quickly get in and out, but this can by all means drop lower. So don't be like surprised if you see tomorrow even a move down to, for example, 920. But 920 would be like that next kind of box of support, if you will, where you could be expecting at least some contention, some reaction, an area on the chart where price does not just flush through. Like it flushes through a lot of this, but it stops somewhere. So it stops here. If it keeps flushing, I would pay high close attention to 920. And as I'm moving OXY smaller, of course, this is starting to make a move. So we got to give it a little bit more space here. 65.45, constantly wicking there. The moment we're going to start closing above that and then holding that level as support, I would be imagining that high isn't safe. So in other words, that we're probably going to reach for that high. And then from there we can look. This is what I really like to see when a candlestick nukes all the way down a lot of percentages and then just holds exactly the line, closes exactly above it. Like, sure, it can come down, but at the very least, that gives me conviction that the levels on the chart that I'm looking at are making sense, right? So for TOST, this big candlestick here looks like we've just wicked above 25.62, so that 4-hour high. That's not a problem. Maybe we still get above it later on, but for now it's at least very good. Again, not the breakout trade, because on thin liquidity also like this, if you're trading and if you are going in, for example, with any kind of size, they are very likely, your broker is very likely to go and give you an entry up somewhere high up in that wick. So you got to be very careful, especially if you try to scalp with size. And that is very much the same on crypto as well. Like, you can really get messed over, especially if you're just marketing in meaning just entering with market orders. Let's see for OXY, if this can now close above it, then come back to 65.45 and hold from there for a potential move to 65.77. And it shouldn't, if that is going to happen, it shouldn't really get below 65.3 anymore. So getting below 65.3, that might be a warning sign that we need to come back down and sweep all the stops under all these wicks here. So, but until we break below 65.3, this actually looks pretty decent now to maybe flip that 65.45 level into support. So what I've circled off here, and here, that can now become relevant in the next 5-15 minutes, for example. So for now, I think that we're pretty well set up with at least levels and scenarios on OXY, RIVN, and TOST. I guess I'll just take a look at the FSM earnings a little bit later. Also for the numbers itself, let me see if I can get that in here as well. Let me actually go to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and see if we can get some actual numbers in here as well. Let's see. Well, it's also actually rolling in here on the left, on the bottom left of my trading view. It also comes with some notifications. Looks like OXY beats first quarter profit estimates. So in a little bit, also if you're on a trading view, it should start popping up here what the earnings are if you are clicking on that E button at the bottom. Typically, what I'm doing is I'm just super focused on these levels. Like, I don't really have time to read anything because I need to be aware of what these levels are first and foremost. And then there's other people that are actually way better at reading these things that can then explain to me whether it's good or bad. Let's see. Looks like RIVN posts Q1 revenue 1.2 billion versus estimate of 1.16. So I guess that's positive, but nonetheless, you see the reaction on the chart is an initial move up and then a straight nuke down. So very oftentimes you see actually a beat on earnings or the revenue or whatever, and then still the chart is not really agreeing with that. And sometimes it does. So I think it's more so important, these earnings on a larger time frame perspective. If you're interested in investing, for example, you probably want to keep up. Is this company making money, yes or no? But if you're primarily here to trade and if you're not really interested in the underlying equity, which is mostly what I'm here for, right? I'm not really interested in TOST and RIVN. What I'm interested in most is getting some relevant moves. Let's see, OXY, very strong rejection from 65.45, so didn't even get one candle close above it on the 5 minute. wicked above it, and on the next one we opened above it, but if this is going to close below, like I said, then this scenario is going to become likely, right? Probably going to move all the way back to 64.8 then if we do find a lower high here. So let me just mark that off. So the bottom there, 64.8. There's going to be tons of stop losses below that. That might be a good level to look for a reaction back to the upside. And if it's going to get below that, that is going to look rather scary, at least in the short term. This move up here is very, very thin, lots of gaps and low liquidity. So 64.5 would then be the next level. That if it breaks below 64.8, so I want to be aware of all these scenarios here. I'm going to make that a red line. And yeah, looks like we're heading straight for all these stop losses, and this might or might not create such a big sell-off reaction, just like here where you have that initial move up and then a straight kind of rug pull, and then you want to be able to figure out where the chart is probably going to stop. I don't know that in advance, but I do think that 64.8 and 64.5 are some good kind of candidates to look for such a reaction as this here. And looks like the same thing is happening on TOST as well. So that's why you can't trust the original move, and you got to be at least treading with caution a little bit, because as bullish as this first move up here looks, right? Everybody agrees that that first 10% candle is looking very bullish, but still, if we're going to get back below where this candlestick opened here, then we might very well do something very similar to what OXY is doing, which is coming back to test some of these lows here. So if that happens, I also want to be aware of some levels below me, of course, for maybe tomorrow, where people are going to get stopped out. So 21.5, I'm going to keep that on my radar. Now, the fact that this is a red candle is not a problem, but we really do got to get back above at least where that opened, and then 25.6, that 4-hour level, to give it, well, upside multiple dollars more, right? Let's see. OXY hitting 64.8 to the exact cent, right? So that level marked off there. They had to calm down and stop everybody out here with resting stops below all these wicks, and that's why you see such a big reaction. Like I said, chart stops somewhere, and you got to be very, very quick on your fingers if you're trying to attempt to scalp this. What I'm mostly here for is to see where these things are, again, going to open up tomorrow. It's the most of my concern. What's up, Swinging Bull and Amy as well? What a pleasure to see you both on YouTube as well. I hope you're enjoying, hope you're both well. I'm just going to observe here for a second, TOST, RIVN, and OXY, and see how these levels are faring. At this point, getting back above 65.5, that would start to look very strong, especially after this kind of fake swing down at that point. But that is really the level to get above there, right? That low turning into resistance, then resistance once again. And RIVN, I mean, while this level is holding up pretty nicely, if you are long from somewhere like that, you probably would like to take profit already when it comes back up and tests this low, for example, right? So let's see what kind of move that would be. 975 was the level that I set, back up into this low there. So that's 10.07, maybe front run at a couple of cents. So let's mark that off as well as kind of a level to keep in mind where RIVN could now find resistance on. OXY, blah, blah, blah. Lots of numbers and things. I also quickly want to go back to FSN. Actually, the one thing that I do have an ongoing position in, all the other things I do not. And let's go to extended. This is apparently not really moving, so that's fine. Let's go back. So RIVN, and we had TOST on there as well, right? I'm definitely going to keep in mind for TOST, at least keep in mind that I don't want to become bearish if it gives me an opportunity down there, for example, tomorrow or later on in the week, especially if I see a reaction like this here. Um, Let's stick around for maybe 20 more minutes and see if anything significant happens. Looks like Rivian is wants to just reach for that low. It just wants it. Just wants to tap it, and then wick from there, come back down, and then we'll see. Kind of the equivalent as that 65.45 level for Rivian is 10.42. So that level, when we were trading all the way up there, was looking at this lower high as an important level. That seems to be a very important level because that's the level that got us back all the way down here. So getting back above 10.40 would start to look pretty decent. And from what I could see, at least on the screen shortly, is that they had some earnings to back it up. I would have to check a little bit more in depth and have to advise a little bit by people who know better. But getting above 10.42 could look very nicely. So that 10.07 looks like it absolutely smashed through that. If you're ever in a trade, I absolutely love it when my target smashes and the chart runs higher. I'm not worried at all that could be, you could have made more, for example. It's just your concern is being at the right side of the market. So let's see. All these squiggly lines, let's get that out. Let's keep on that horizontal level. This can go, this can go, this can go as well. And people trying to breakout trade that. So again, if you see a big green candlestick and you think about hitting the green button at the top of a big green candlestick, you often end up being trapped in a wick. So it's when things are coming down that it's more interesting. And OXY as well, like that is a very, very like precise move to 64.8. So they've engineered that pretty nicely. Run up into resistance, come back down, another move to make it look very bullish, and then everybody trying to break out long puts their stop losses on one of these higher lows. Immediately, everything swept. Then you come down to 64.8. The other side tries to break out trade, and you come back to the middle of the range. And ultimately, what we're left with here is people trapped breakout trading resistance, people trapped breakout trading support, and it's just a question of which one is actually going to break and hold and going to keep the other side of the equation even more trapped. So I would say and suggest below 64.8, this probably continues down to 64.5. Above 65.45, this probably continues up to 65.7. And then Rivian really already gave that move, right? That 975 level into, what is it, 10.07. Even if you're not trading this I would say this is very good practice, especially if you're like crypto trading on lower time frames. That this is how it moves all the time, every single day, same thing. And the same exact thing here as well with those people trapped breakout trading above resistance. They might very well be right, but I would rather join in a little bit later when I see confirmed strength, and then maybe running the wick and so on and so forth. Here, I don't trust that enough yet. This could very well do the same thing as what Rivian did here, OXY did here, which is sweep some of these lows here. That's not safe. So if I'm going long here, I'm not trusting that they don't have to sweep that. So I'm more interested after that happens. And let's see where this candlestick opened, 25.16. I also want to keep that in mind. Something like that, exactly like this. Rivian, I think those are also vehicles, right? Cars. A lot of these charts are really battered down. I was taking a quick look at Lucid today. I was actually quickly looking over their numbers, and while I'm not at all the best place to read or interpret those, that didn't seem good at all. So at least if you're trading this, to me, this is things like a short-term trade. I'm not trying to keep things like that in my portfolio for very, very long, at least not in this kind of state of the market for EVs and vehicles in general. So that's already a half an hour of a lot of volatility. Let's see where we go from here. The fact that this previous candlestick here for Rivian on the 5-minute closes above 10.07 and does not just wick above that and close below, that's pretty nice, but still, maybe from here, like I don't know, but if it would give a retest off of the high of that previous candlestick here. So for example, from here, coming back down, making a higher low at 9.94 and then trading back up into this right here again, and then maybe targeting the wick higher up. I want to keep that on my radar as well, even just for practice sake, right? Just looking at the reaction from the high 2 candlesticks prior. Or running above 1040 and then showing some strength there, but realistically the sweetest move here from 975, that opportunity is quickly boom past. Looks like Rivian after all is basically showing me the most interesting price action. TOST and OXY, at least to me, don't look like they immediately really want to go somewhere. These charts look like they're perfectly happy with who is currently trapped, and they're just fine with keeping it a little bit sideways. But Rivian looks like this might be the one that actually ends up pulling something off here now. We're in a big green candlestick, or at least a green candlestick, so not suggesting breakout trading. Rather, let's take a look now at the high of this candlestick, and then on the next candlestick we can take a look at 1013 as well. So really just following along. So I'm going to mark this off right now. Ideally from here, what would be not good for Rivian is getting back below 994 and then closing there, then flipping all of that back into resistance and then making another lower high here and then coming down. So that's what you don't want to see if you're bullish. That could be an invalidation below 994 right now with a 5-minute close. That's not good at all. But it looks like that's not what it wants to do. There's some juice in this. These candlesticks, they look like they potentially might even want to run the wick high there again. Let's see who is in the Discord. I've not been paying attention to who has been in here. Thanks all for sticking around for a good amount of time. I definitely do want to stay around for, I think 10 minutes ago I said 20 minutes, but as long as these candlesticks are basically showing me something interesting, I'll stick around for at the very most another 20-30 minutes, but maximum. Let's just, as soon as this volume dies down and it just starts going sideways, there's really no point anymore in spending time on it. But as long as this is showing candlesticks like this, that is very nice. Now from 975, it's incredibly unlikely that you catch that from to perfection and that you hold all your size and that you then sell the exact top. So taking profit in between is very okay. Let's see, Rivian posts wider quarterly loss, stock falls 4%, and that's what they're posting then 1 minute ago in like the news section here. Like that is they're behind because 1 minute ago something else was we're now in the process of climbing back up. So I want to take a look at 1013 and 994 as levels to maybe wick in and hold. Closing below 994, not good at all. Getting below this green box, very bearish. And then we're looking at 920. And to the upside, my higher time frame level there is 1168. So that's really something to then maybe aim for. That's a broken low. Maybe it wants to do that. I don't know. Let's see. This is at the very least a very bullish construction here, running all the way back up to the open price of this big red candlestick. If we're going to close above that, that's going to look good. Not to then enter more longs, but to look for the higher low here, right? That's kind of what we're concerned with. Comes down, makes a higher low, then goes up. Numbers are numbers. It's how the market reacts on it. Absolutely top. Like I said, I actually, like, on a day-to-day basis, I speak to people in trading server here in Penny Boys or on social media. Actually, nobody is interested in these companies at all. The only thing that people are interested in is a green number on their screen, green P&L. So we can cater to that. Can look at the levels. But I definitely am interested, but I have to do a little bit of more research about these numbers themselves. Like, so we'll stick to price action for now. And so it's a matter of patience now. Just it can move quickly and then take its sweet time. But when you're going up like this, I'm always aware of the possibility of retracing back to these levels. So no guarantee that it holds. Like I said, the greatest opportunity for RIVN by all means is already past. So the opportunity from 975 into this level is the cleanest, easiest move. That's already gone, but the retest here in this fair value gap looks juicy. Now, if I'm seeing something like this between 10 and 11 a.m. New York time, I'm going to be all over that. This is not necessarily the same context after hours, low liquidity, as when everybody is able to trade and proper volume is kicking in the market. Then I would trust that more, a setup like this. But it's nonetheless interesting to look at. Great stream. Thank you very much, sir. We're trying to do what we can, right? I'm going to clean up my chart a little bit. I always like to get carried away and really circle on my chart. But it does help. It does help to have these squiggly lines, at least for me. Let's see. So coming back into this gap, it's now a matter of importance. How is it going to hold? Like I said, getting below 994 with a closure, and then this gap turns into resistance potentially, and that might look short-term bearish again. So it's very easy to get swayed into believing like, oh yes, everything's fine with the company. Oh no, everything's bad. Oh no, everything's fine again. Oh no, everything's bad again. So you just want to keep a level head, play things from level to level. Might come all the way down to 994. I'd be very interested to see what it would do there. OXY 648 and then wicked up. But if we're going to get below that, I'm just going to reiterate that 64.5 is kind of in the cards. And for TOST, realistically, right, I'll also, while this is printing a couple more candlesticks, at least in the 15 minutes, I'll give you kind of a trade ID example. Let's take this out and let's take this out and let's just focus on this for a second. And what I would personally like to see, and again, this is something, if this happens between 10 and 11 a.m. New York time, regular trading hours, I will be all over that. With after hours, you really got to treat this with care. But I would say if at this point you see a 15-minute close above 25.16, then there could be an idea to take a limit order at 25.16 to put your stop loss under the low like that and to target all the way back up in that wick. That's about the 2-to-1. And the idea, right, is not to breakout trade this, to look only, does it close a candle above? Does it pick me up? Then I'm in the trade. It can still stop me out, but oftentimes it's actually then going to run back to the high. So that's the trade setup for TOST on the 15-minute time frame for anybody who also kind of wants to keep these particular candlesticks in mind, maybe for later on or tomorrow. Let's see, TOST's Q1 loss narrows, blah, 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 revenue rises, shares up after hours. Well, it's a little bit more of a nuanced story. It had a big squeeze up and then got smashed back down. So that's the upper side continuation. Now I'm going to start placing some alerts on this before I head off, because I want to be able to just come to my chart and just when it's relevant. And I suggest this for everybody, just have your plan and don't stare yourself blindly on candlesticks, right? So I'm going to have an alert there for TOST at 25.16, for OXY at 64. at the very least here short term. And I also want to have an alert again for RIVN above 1042 because as I said a couple of times now, that's really the level that on a short-term time frame you want to get back above that, close above that, and stop constantly rejecting from it, right? Once again, candlestick before that same level that is providing resistance, right? So the next time it gets above it, it becomes more and more likely then that it starts holding. So looks like 994 also, right? There's a reason price stops there for a second. If you're super quick on your fingers and you have leverage and a crypto exchange, then being aware of these small time frame levels is great. Can help with that as well for anybody interested. Titan Trading, Pennyboy sister server, always there. So at this point, let me just have my alert at 64.5 for OXY and at 65.45. I want to be aware if we get above 65.45 or if we get below 64.5. Nothing else. Like anything within this range is just not interesting. It's just you're trading chop and you're essentially taking positions that have already been taken multiple times. So really at this point, you'd like to see something new. And then for RIVN 1042 as the level to get above and hold, and TOST 25.16 as the level to get above and hold. So that's really it. I think those are some good levels, and I'm convinced that if you keep those on your radar, that might yield some good results maybe tomorrow as well, right? Doesn't really seem like we're going to see like maybe before I go, let's just put on the volume, but I'm sure at this point, right, it's telling us to go because it's going to be dying down and dying down. So, right, just a lot of volume and super shallow here. Have my volume just in gray because I never look, is this volume green or red? It might trick you into thinking that that's buying or selling volume, and it's really just the total amount of volume that I'm interested in. RIVN also just below average volume, and TOST looks like the same thing. A lot of volume coming in at the beginning and then nothing really anymore. So I'm just going to have these alerts set, and especially tomorrow during regular trading hours and especially during 10-11 a.m. I would like to play these things. So we'll be around in the Pennyboys Discord tomorrow as well at market open from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So that gives us some time to also look at that 10-11 a.m. Window in the morning to potentially get some trade setups based on some of these levels. Yes, the level for TOST is 25.16. You got it, Lettuce. Good. With that being said, I'm going to end this stream here. Still have to go get my dinner and it's getting pretty late, but I hope everybody enjoyed. And thank you all very much for spending your time with me here tonight. And I wish you all a very good evening and happy trading days to come. So I'm going to end the stream here. And thanks once again.